It's been said that Bigfoot exhibits nocturnal behavior, perhaps to hunt or to avoid detection. But the cloak of darkness couldn't hide the creature in the stunning footage you're about to see.
What if Bigfoot isn't just folklore, but something far stranger? Something no one has truly understood. David Paulides, a former detective turned investigator, has spent decades uncovering evidence and witness accounts that challenge everything we thought we knew. Could this be a hidden world existing in plain sight, operating by rules we don't grasp? From eerie forensic sketches to unexplained DNA results and secretive government files, the clues point to one unsettling idea. Bigfoot may be part human, part something unknown. This isn't just about a cryptid. It's about how little we truly understand the world around us. Mystery behind Bigfoot's true nature. Bigfoot has long been dismissed by mainstream science as a myth or misidentification. Yet the persistence of sightings and evidence demands a closer look. David Paulides approaches this mystery not as a believer or skeptic, but as a trained detective committed to uncovering uncomfortable truths. His investigations reveal that Bigfoot might not be a mere animal, but something far more complex and unsettling, part human, part unknown. This raises a fundamental question. What exactly is Bigfoot, and why has it remained so elusive to scientific inquiry? One of the most puzzling aspects uncovered in Paulides' work is the presence of evidence that defies traditional biological classification. Footprints with unique biomechanical features, DNA that does not match known species, and vocalizations that suggest complex communication challenge the common image of Bigfoot as a simple wild creature. These anomalies hint at a reality far stranger than the popular ape-like monster portrayed in the media. Could Bigfoot represent an entirely new category of life, or something that rests on the margins of science and folklore? Paulides points out that this mystery also extends beyond biology into the realm of behavior and social structure. Reports consistently describe Bigfoot as living in family groups with territories and unspoken rules of engagement. Witnesses speak of rituals, feeding patterns, and boundaries that the creatures respect, suggesting a level of intelligence and societal organization rarely attributed to cryptids. This nuanced picture casts doubt on simplistic explanations and emphasizes the need for serious study. Despite thousands of sightings and tantalizing clues, Bigfoot remains frustratingly hidden. Paulides highlights the odd paradox. These creatures seem purposely restricted from contact with humans, almost as if obeying an unseen social contract or force. This aspect fuels speculation that Bigfoot might not be a biological anomaly alone, but could be connected to deeper mysteries or even supernatural origins. Such a proposition challenges the boundaries of accepted science and invites us to question our understanding of reality itself. Paulides built his narrative around the existing conflict between scientific evidence and the scientific community's decision not to study the phenomenon. He shows people that institutions usually reject vital evidence because they choose to doubt everything from footprints to eyewitness testimonies. The way people view Bigfoot research leads them to see the creature either as a hoax that only fringe believers accept, or as a genuine creature that exists because of a hidden government program. Paulides establishes his research position between two opposing sides by using factual evidence that he obtained through scientific research. Paulides uses his research methods as the main component that determines the investigation into this case. He brings to the field ongoing forensic investigation expertise, along with his ability to maintain critical thinking through police interrogation methods. His investigations start with doubt, but when witnesses across different regions and backgrounds offer consistent descriptions and physical evidence align, he cannot easily discount the phenomenon. The rigorous process of research shows that Bigfoot studies people follow the stereotype of amateur researchers who conduct their studies based on wishful thinking, thus requiring serious scientific examination. The more Paulides investigates his research, the more he discovers patterns that challenge both the definition of Bigfoot and its reasons for remaining out of sight. The unusual footprints disappear without explanation. The acoustic signals show a basis for language. The government records provide information about encounters that officials have not disclosed to the public. The complex system of this mystery leads to a hidden mystery that may connect biological, psychological, and political elements that interact with each other in strange ways. The true nature of Bigfoot, Paulides insists, is far from the simple explanations offered by skeptics. Paulides' investigation functions as our fundamental investigation, which demands we determine what exists as real truth, while we evaluate complete evidence that exists in piecemeal form. The question exists about whether Bigfoot represents either an unknown species, a supernatural being, or a combined entity from an unknown source. The question continues to exist in an uncomfortable state because new findings keep creating confusion for specialists while they fuel ongoing discussions. The unexplained elements of the mystery force us to move beyond traditional stories to explore a scientific space where people believe different things. This unresolved enigma sets the stage for understanding the man whose forensic mind reshaped the Bigfoot conversation, David Paulides, and the unique journey that brought him from law enforcement to the heart of the wilderness's greatest mystery. David Paulides' investigative journey. David Paulides' path to becoming a leading voice in Bigfoot research is unusual and compelling. Born in Columbia Falls, Montana, a small town surrounded by wilderness, he grew up immersed in nature, but trained to think rigorously and critically. He studied at the University of San Francisco, where discipline and logic were emphasized, before joining law enforcement in 1977. His career included SWAT teams, detective work, and street crime investigations, giving him a finely honed ability to evaluate evidence and discern truth from deception. Paulides didn't enter the Bigfoot scene as a believer eager to prove a long-held legend. He arrived from a place of skepticism and hard-earned experience with real criminals and forensic evidence. When approached in the early 2000s to investigate sightings on the Hoopa Valley Reservation in Northern California, he accepted not to confirm a myth, but to follow facts, no matter where they led. His law enforcement background meant he treated every witness with professional suspicion, demanding consistency and credibility. His investigation methods were meticulous, armed with notepads, forensic artists, and a commitment to documented evidence. Paulides collected testimony and physical clues systematically. When multiple witnesses from different generations and positions within the Hoopa tribe described consistent behaviors and appearances, it challenged his skepticism. The details they provided, mundane yet precise, stood out to a detective's ear as signs of genuine memory rather than fabrication or exaggeration. The Hoopa Project, which Paulides published in 2008, contains research findings that he documented through his methodical research work, which brought him recognition to study a topic that scientists usually treat with sensationalistic methods. He conducted further research through his work on tribal Bigfoot and the Missing 411 series, which investigated mysterious disappearance patterns that occurred in national parks. The disappearances, which people believed were connected to Bigfoot activity, created a major public interest because of the documentaries, podcasts, and new cultural interest that emerged about Bigfoot. Paulides built his reputation as a cryptid researcher because he had law enforcement experience, which distinguished him from other scientists who studied unknown creatures. His exceptional power to identify evidence discrepancies, together with his demand for trustworthy proof, makes him a credible expert whose findings hold strong value. The scientific community, which refuses to consider his claims, has created a divide between him and his supporters who back his transition from folklore research to forensic research. Paulides continues to analyze evidence together with witness statements because he believes that their accumulated truth has reached a point where it must be accepted as fact. The research of Paulides extends beyond books and articles into his film work, which includes the 2025 documentary American Sasquatch: Man, Myth, or Monster. The film, which Gabe Torres directed, shows decades' worth of research through its display of fieldwork results and via sketches, DNA evidence, and witness testimonies, which it presents in a highly polished way that distinguishes itself from other films in this category. The documentary builds an entire case about Bigfoot, which it presents in a scientific way that also includes cultural and political aspects of the topic. His journey from a Montana kid to a detective to a researcher of one of the most enduring mysteries embodies a blend of curiosity, skepticism, and dedication. Paulides' work challenges both folklore enthusiasts and skeptical scientists to reconsider the boundaries of mystery and evidence. His story exists as a battle between him and the truth, which exists in the wilderness that Bigfoot is supposed to inhabit. This investigative journey leads directly to some of the most compelling evidence Paulides has unearthed, the accounts and sketches from the Hoopa Valley that contest everything most people think they know about Bigfoot. The Hoopa Valley findings. The Hoopa Valley Reservation in Northern California became the epicenter of a seismic shift in Bigfoot research, thanks to David Paulides' investigation. The Hoopa tribe has coexisted with these creatures, whom they call the forest people, for generations. Unlike the sensationalized wandering ape of popular culture, the tribe described beings with distinct social structures, family units, and territorial boundaries. This complex portrayal immediately challenged the simplistic imagery that dominates public perception. One of the most striking revelations is the tribe's account of an unspoken social contract between humans and the forest people, rules that dictate interactions and territories. Elders told Paulides about specific behaviors, such as leaving food at the forest's edge, not as an offering, but almost as a territorial message. The creatures were watchers, respecting certain boundaries and never crossing into human settlements, suggesting a form of intelligence that recognizes and abides by social norms. These accounts were not mere folklore sung around campfires. They were serious testimonies carried for centuries, consistent across multiple generations and diverse witnesses. Paulides noted that the mundane details, the exact locations, routine behaviors, and consistent descriptions are the markers of genuine eyewitness accounts in forensic investigations. The precision and repetition across unrelated sources gave the reports significant credibility. To further validate these testimonies, Paulides brought in Harvey Pratt, an FBI-trained forensic artist famed for producing accurate criminal composites. Pratt conducted structured interviews with Hoopa witnesses, gathering descriptions without preconceived notions or visual aids. The resulting sketches were remarkable. The faces did not resemble beasts or primates, but appeared disturbingly human. They showed high cheekbones, expressive eyes, and facial proportions only slightly off from human norms. Witnesses reviewing these sketches affirmed their accuracy, reinforcing the idea of a creature with a human-like appearance, not a wild ape. Harvey Pratt himself expressed surprise, stating the faces didn't match any traditional Bigfoot image and were unlike anything he had seen in years of forensic work. His expert opinion carried weight, particularly given his background in drawing perpetrators of serious crimes. Though sketches are not definitive proof, the consistency across independent interviews and the credibility of the artist provide compelling evidence that these forest people are not the monstrous caricatures popularized in the media. Instead, they might represent a hybrid or entirely new entity with traits more human than animal. This revelation invites a reevaluation of the broad assumptions about Bigfoot's nature. The Hoopa Valley findings mark a turning point in Paulides' work, shifting his investigation from curious exploration to a lifelong pursuit of an unsettling truth. They laid the groundwork for further forensic, genetic, and anthropological scrutiny, deepening the mystery instead of resolving it. This foundation leads directly to another remarkable claim that DNA tested from purported Bigfoot samples refuses to fit into any known species classification, further complicating an already perplexing story. The controversial DNA evidence. One of the most provocative elements in David Paulides' investigation is the genetic study led by Dr. Melba Ketchum, published in 2013, which brought Bigfoot research to a new level of scientific controversy. The study involved sequencing genetic material from over 100 samples, hair, blood, and tissue, collected across North America over several years. Ketchum's team concluded that mitochondrial DNA inherited from the maternal line was entirely human, tracing back to female ancestors from approximately 12 to 15,000 years ago. This suggested that whatever Bigfoot is, it had human women in its lineage. However, the study became truly puzzling when examining the nuclear DNA, which showed no matches in any known primate or animal database worldwide. According to Ketchum, this nuclear DNA was entirely unclassified, indicating an unknown paternal origin beyond modern science's understanding. The team interpreted this as Bigfoot being a hybrid, offspring of human mothers and an unidentified non-human species, something that doesn't fit conventional biological categories. This claim, if valid, would overturn traditional ideas about species and raise profound questions about human ancestry and biology. Despite the explosive implications, the mainstream scientific community quickly criticized the study. One major concern was contamination. Human DNA is ubiquitous and often found on collection tools or in labs, which can lead to false positives, especially in mitochondrial DNA analysis. Critics also pointed to the peer review process. Ketchum's study was published in a journal partially established by her research group, which compromised the independence expected in scientific evaluation. Journals like Nature declined the paper, though without the dramatic rejection some supporters claimed. The primary scientific dispute showed no evidence of a conspiracy to conceal research findings because the study failed to provide sufficient methodological support for making exceptional claims. The results require independent testing under controlled conditions to achieve complete validation. The scientific establishment and Paulides' camp have fought their battle for more than 10 years, with both sides presenting their respective strong arguments. Supporters accuse critics of lacking intellectual courage while they pretend to analyze research methods. But skeptics assert that researchers have not yet provided sufficient evidence. The study collected genetic samples through an extensive process, which scientists conducted with proper scientific procedures despite all the existing disputes about the study. Paulides confirmed that his organization, the North American Bigfoot Search, played a key role in gathering evidence, emphasizing a serious and prolonged effort to obtain and analyze samples. The team dedicated 5 years to laboratory research, which they used to establish scientific truth. Although their final results remain a matter of contention, the dedication shows how difficult it becomes to demonstrate anything that exists far beyond accepted scientific boundaries. The critics point out that human mitochondrial DNA presence in the samples may have resulted from either sample contamination or human collection errors, which create doubt about the hybrid origin claims. Contamination problems arise as a standard challenge in wildlife genetics research, which studies hidden animals that need extensive field exploration. The unusual nuclear DNA signature remains unverified because other laboratories have not tested it using identical verification methods, which results in academic uncertainty about the research findings. The study received contrasting reactions, which demonstrate how Bigfoot research encounters fundamental conflicts between its compelling research possibilities and the scientific community's strict doubts. The unresolvable genetic puzzle contributes to evidence about a creature that exists between established animal categories and complete unknown status. The genetic results create additional mystery about the case because they either show true hybrid existence or present evidence that has been incorrectly understood. This DNA enigma pushes the investigation beyond folklore and into hard scientific debate. Yet physical evidence, particularly footprints, offers another tangible yet puzzling trail, warranting scrutiny. Unexplainable physical footprints. Physical evidence often carries a weight that testimony alone cannot match, and Paulides' research includes hundreds of footprint casts taken over decades from across North America's wildest regions. These casts come from diverse ecosystems, from dense Pacific Northwest forests to snowy northern Rockies, and some of their features defy easy explanation by current wildlife biology. The footprints display intricate details that challenge notions of forgery or misidentification common in Bigfoot skepticism. A particularly striking feature observed in many casts is the presence of dermal ridges, the fine skin patterns akin to human fingerprints. These ridges cover the entire sole and toes with microscopic precision, something nearly impossible to fabricate convincingly at scale. Jimmy Chilcutt, a fingerprint expert with the Conroe Police Department in Texas, examined several casts and confirmed that these ridge patterns were not only genuine, but also distinct from any known primate. Although his stance as a skeptic changed after the examination, he refrained from calling this supernatural, focusing instead on the credible biological nature of the prints. Another unusual trait found in many footprints is the so-called mid-tarsal break, a bend in the middle of the foot that allows flexibility uncommon to humans but typical of some primates. Human feet are biomechanically rigid during walking, engaging a locked midfoot for push-off. Bigfoot tracks with midfoot flexibility suggest a locomotion style between humans and great apes, one that defies replication by a person in a costume or any known North American animal. Biomechanics researcher Dr. Jeff Meldrum of Idaho State University supports this interpretation and argues these gait patterns cannot be faked. But not all footprint evidence is straightforward. Some casts reportedly show tracks appearing mid-stride on open ground with no approach or exit trails. Paulides documents multiple such cases, representing some of the most puzzling footprint anomalies. While skeptics offer natural explanations, such as snowmelt patterns or wind erosion, Paulides contends that environmental conditions in many cases make these explanations insufficient. The unresolved nature of these footprints adds to the mystery and illustrates the limits of both field observation and scientific certainty. Beyond physical impressions, the footprints also invite questions about the creature's behavior and habitat. Their distribution across millions of square miles and varying ecosystems suggests these beings are widely dispersed, yet elusive. This geographic breadth challenges the idea of isolated hoaxes and rather implies an undetected population with remarkable survival skills. The footprints carry profound implications for the creature's existence and biology. If genuine, they show anatomical and locomotive features unseen in known wildlife, which would necessitate an expansion of zoological taxonomy or recognition of currently hidden species. The detailed dermal ridges, unique foot flexibility, and strange trail patterns all hint at an organism distinct from humans or animals. While footprints are physical residues in the dirt, similar footprints recorded in the remote forests echo the strange vocalizations and behavioral complexity witnesses describe. The traces in the earth correlate with a presence that communicates and interacts far beyond what most assume. As the footprints challenge accepted biology, the mystery deepens with sounds and signals that suggest not only a physical, but an intellectual presence, weaving a complex picture that scientists and investigators continue to unravel. Strange vocalizations and communication. Amid the physical and genetic clues, another layer of the Bigfoot mystery lurks in the realm of sound. Across decades and vast wildernesses, witnesses and researchers alike have recorded vocalizations that don't resemble any known animal calls. These aren't simple howls or roars, but complex patterns with rhythm and repetition, qualities that suggest a form of structured language. The recordings challenge the assumption that these creatures are mute or merely instinct-driven animals. One of the most famous audio examples comes from the Sierra Nevada mountains in the early 1970s, where a research group captured a series of long, flowing calls unlike the usual wildlife sounds. These vocalizations had cadence, call and response sequences, and tonal variation that felt deliberate, even intentional. Decades later, retired U.S. Navy specialist Scott Nelson analyzed these recordings using professional communication tools. His conclusion was striking. The sounds bore the hallmarks of structured language, including phonetic variation and syntax, indicating a possible form of meaningful communication. Nelson's assessment, while never fully validated by mainstream linguistics or published in peer-reviewed journals, brings a new dimension to the debate. This isn't amateur speculation, but the analysis of a trained expert applying rigorous methods to real data. Though it doesn't prove Bigfoot speaks like humans, it strongly counters the notion that the vocalizations are random animal noises. Instead, it points toward a level of cognitive complexity that most previous Bigfoot theories have overlooked. Adding to this intrigue are countless field reports from the Pacific Northwest to the Appalachian Mountains describing deep whoops, rhythmic chest thumping, and sounds that mimic human speech to unsettling degrees. Although rarely clear or perfectly intelligible, these sequences suggest mimicry, adaptation, or even attempts at interaction. Such vocal sophistication is rare outside primates, dolphins, and select bird species recognized for their intelligence, raising the question of where Bigfoot fits into this spectrum. The Hoopa tribe, together with other indigenous groups, presents evidence for their ability to communicate through telepathic channels that exist beyond their capacity to produce spoken words. The witnesses received precise messages that lacked spoken words and body movements, while they experienced urgent danger signals and deep psychological terror. The scientific community tends to reject these experiences because they believe that psychological effects emerge from stress and fear. Yet multiple cultures across different time periods have reported similar experiences, which require more complex analysis. Telepathic communication creates a consistent pattern that challenges scientists' understanding of human physiology and mental processes. The failure to acknowledge these accounts creates a void that prevents researchers from acquiring complete knowledge about these animal behaviors. Bigfoot may possess unknown cognitive capabilities that help him navigate through his environment by using secret methods of human interaction. Bigfoot's voice creates an eerie forest sound, which scientists believe functions as a complex system that surpasses human capacity to hear. The existence of a smart species that lives among people exists because they use methods of communication that remain unknown to us now. Researchers must change their methods of listening to evidence because they need new ways to understand and evaluate scientific proof. The complexity of these vocalizations creates a link between physical presence and intellectual capacity. The evidence points to a hidden society that maintains active social connections beyond human observation. Sounds woven with mystery lead naturally to the question of how much official institutions know or acknowledge about these beings, and whether secrecy or suppression clouds the truth. Government documents and witness testimony. Behind the scenes of the Bigfoot enigma lies a trove of official records obtained through Freedom of Information Act requests that bring a startling legitimacy to otherwise fringe claims. David Paulides and his team have uncovered documents referencing encounters with large, unidentified bipeds on federal land, including national park logs, ranger notes, and military reports. These are not just anonymous online posts, but files with file numbers, official letterheads, and signatures, confirming a paper trail often ignored by the public. One particularly intriguing case involves the Nevada test site, a highly restricted nuclear testing area, where a security guard reported seeing a large, hairy, upright creature cross an open desert road in broad daylight in 1980. The setting adds weight to the sighting, not a forest or shadowy place, but a high-security area where unusual sightings would be hard to fabricate or dismiss. Paulides uses this and similar incidents to argue that Bigfoot's range is broader than popularly believed, with sightings happening inside government-controlled zones. The existence of these government encounters suggests that some officials have taken these reports seriously enough to document them internally, even if they avoid public acknowledgement. Employees, from park rangers to military personnel, may be discouraged from speaking openly, creating a culture of silence around this phenomenon. This tacit suppression fuels speculation about intentional cover-ups, or at least an institutional reluctance to handle what defies easy explanation. Opponents, however, point to ordinary explanations, emphasizing that wilderness environments often distort human perception. High stress, poor visibility, and fear can cause misidentifications, upright bears, elongated shadows, and even hallucinations. Such factors complicate the official reports and challenge the assumption that every document equates to undeniable proof. Another critical sticking point remains the absence of verifiable physical remains. No confirmed body, no bones, and no independently verified DNA samples have surfaced despite decades of investigations. For scientific consensus, this absence is the linchpin. Without a body, claims will always face skepticism. Paulides counters by emphasizing how nature erases traces quickly, noting how animals die unnoticed in wild places without leaving recoverable evidence. The question ultimately becomes not whether these creatures exist, but how ready society, or the scientific establishment, is to accept proof when it arrives. The bureaucratic files and testimonies hint at a reality quietly acknowledged but publicly obscured, maintaining the tension between belief and skepticism. The presence of official records cements Bigfoot's place as more than just a myth, inviting reassessment of what is known and what remains hidden in America's wilderness. It highlights an uncomfortable intersection of mystery, authority, and secrecy familiar in many unexplained phenomena. As these documents reinforce the complexity of the enigma, they also set the stage for an evolving narrative, one that merges decades of fieldwork, expert analysis, and cultural shifts into a story still unfolding at the edges of science and belief. The future of the mystery. David Paulides' decades of work come together in his 2025 documentary, American Sasquatch: Man, Myth, or Monster. Unlike typical Bigfoot media, the film avoids hype and focuses on careful analysis, bringing together witness accounts, forensic details, and perspectives from native communities, scientists, artists, and even officials. The result feels less like entertainment and more like a serious investigation into something long dismissed. One of the film's most unusual angles is its exploration of quantum physics as a possible explanation for strange encounters. Tracks that stop mid-step and sightings where beings appear and vanish challenge conventional science. While no mainstream experts confirm these ideas, the discussion highlights a simple truth: current explanations may not be enough. The political landscape of the country has undergone a minor transformation. Public interest in unexplained phenomena is increasing because Tim Burchett and other people demand transparency about these events. Current discussions about UFOs have brought Bigfoot back into the public eye after people used to dismiss it as a complete hoax. The evidence exists that people need to reconsider this matter. The audience shows their changing response through their reactions. People watch the show because they find it interesting instead of using mockery as their response. The film attracts viewers who seek actual evidence because of its grounded nature, which provides proof to support its Bigfoot claims. The film demonstrates that Bigfoot has changed from a myth into a topic that people now debate seriously. Paulides makes his statements without using strong declarations. He acknowledges that certain cases fail to meet standards, while numerous inquiries remain unresolved. The filmmaker presents evidence to his audience because he wants them to think critically, instead of accepting everything without question. The investigation has not solved the mystery after scientists studied 3 decades worth of evidence, which includes footprints, sounds, and sightings. The mystery continues to exist because it refuses to disappear. One question continues to exist: are we truly ready to face what will be revealed through undeniable proof, which will eventually become available? David Paulides has turned decades of dismissed stories into a disciplined investigation that reshapes what we think about Bigfoot. From forensic sketches and baffling DNA to government records and mysterious sounds, the evidence paints a challenging picture. Whether you're a skeptic or a believer, this story demands attention and reflection. If you found this exploration intriguing, please like and subscribe for more deep dives into the unknown. And don't miss the next story waiting on your screen, because it just might change how you see everything.